6 months passed in a blur of activity. Earth prepared for war in ways no one could have imagined before the arrival of the Eldrathi. The first Wardrake rider training facility was established in a remote desert location, large enough to accommodate the massive creatures. Alex stood on an observation platform watching as 20 human candidates approached the Wardrakes for the first time. They were the survivors of a rigorous selection process that had tested thousands of volunteers from military and civilian backgrounds alike. Nervous Lieutenant Commander Ambassador Lyra asked, standing beside her. Alex smiled, feeling Zephyr's presence in her mind like a warm current. "I remember my first meeting with Zephyr," she replied, though mine was somewhat less formal. The Wardrakes had arrived 3 weeks earlier aboard a massive Eldrathi carrier ship, 30 of them, each unique in coloration and temperament. They had been volunteers as well, ancient beings who had chosen to seek human bonds. After hearing of Alex and Zephyr's success, Admiral Blackwood joined them on the platform, her uniform now bearing the insignia of the newly formed Dragon Corps, a name that had stuck despite official attempts to create something more formal. "Today's the day," she said. "Are they ready? As ready as they can be?" Lyra replied. "The preliminary mental scans suggest strong compatibility in at least 15 of the candidates, but the final choice belongs to the Wardrakes themselves." Alex felt Zephyr's amusement at this. The massive blue dragon was circling high above, watching the proceedings with interest. He projected an image into her mind of fledgling birds leaving the nest. Hardly she thought back to him. "These are trained soldiers and pilots, not children." The Wardrake sent back a feeling that translated roughly as same difference compared to his thousands of years of experience. Below them, the candidates approached the gathered Wardrakes. The dragons were arranged in a semicircle, their massive bodies creating a living wall of scales and muscle. Each candidate carried a focus orb similar to the one Alex had received from Lyra. The selection process began. One by one, the candidates approached different Wardrakes. Some were rejected immediately, the dragons showing no interest. Others were examined more closely, with the Wardrakes lowering their heads to make eye contact. A young pilot named Olivia was the first to make a connection. A copper-colored female Wardrake named Ashreth bent her long neck down and touched her snout to Olivia's forehead. The contact lasted only seconds, but when they separated, both human and dragon seemed changed. Their postures mirrored each other, and Olivia moved with new confidence. 5 more connections were made in quick succession. The observers on the platform watched in silence as humans and Wardrakes found each other across the gulf of species and experience. 15, she says, Alex murmured. "We have 6 so far. Give them time." Admiral Blackwood replied, "This isn't something we can rush." Another candidate approached a massive black Wardrake with silver markings along his spine. The dragon had rejected 3 previous humans, but this time something was different. The Wardrake tilted his head, studying the man before him. Daniel Riley, former search and rescue specialist, Alex identified. She had reviewed all the candidates' files obsessively. Quiet type, keeps to himself, but has an impressive record of selfless actions. The black Wardrake, named Vorinth, suddenly moved forward with unexpected speed. His massive head stopped inches from Daniel's face. The man didn't flinch or step back. Instead, he reached up slowly and placed his hand on the dragon's snout. The connection was immediate and dramatic. A visible pulse of energy flashed between them, and Daniel gasped, stumbling backward. The Wardrake caught him with one massive foreleg, preventing his fall. 7, Admiral Blackwood said with satisfaction. By the end of the day, 12 pairs had bonded. The remaining Wardrakes would wait for the next group of candidates. Alex knew from her connection with Zephyr that the dragons were pleased with the results. The first true Dragon Rider Corps in human history was taking shape. Alex Mason, the Admiral, said as they walked back toward the command center. "I need your assessment. How long until these pairs are combat ready?" The lieutenant commander considered. "There are advantages and disadvantages," she replied. "The Eldrathi train their riders from childhood. They have decades to develop the bond. But humans adapt quickly. We compress learning that's always been our strength." She glanced at Lyra, who nodded in agreement. "The basic flight maneuvers can be mastered in weeks. The combat techniques perhaps 2 months, But the resonance attack that took you only minutes, Admiral Blackwood pointed out a fluke. Alex admitted. Something about that moment, the desperation. The others will need more time to achieve that level of synchronization. Ambassador Lyra spoke. The important thing is that the bonds are forming successfully. That alone is remarkable. My people had not expected such quick compatibility. Do we have that kind of time? Admiral Blackwood asked. Our long-range sensors have detected herald activity. At the edge of the solar system, they seem to be gathering their forces. Alex felt Zephyr's concern through their bond. The Wardrake was circling lower now, sensing the tension in the conversation. We train as fast as we can, Alex said, and hope it's enough. 3 months later, Alex stood on the bridge of the Dragonfire, Earth's first purpose-built carrier, designed specifically for Wardrake operations. The massive ship held 20 bonded pairs and was equipped with launch bays that allowed the Dragons to deploy directly into Space Captain Beck. Now Commander Beck served as her executive officer. The former captain had requested the assignment, specifically wanting to continue working with the person who had changed humanities. Destiny, Lieutenant Commander. Mason. Commander Beck said, our scouts have returned. The Herald fleet has entered the outer system. They're moving slowly but steadily inward. Alex nodded, feeling the weight of command. The Dragonfire was the flagship of Earth's defense fleet, accompanied by 5 Eldrathi vessels and a dozen human ships retrofitted with the crystal technology that allowed them to support Wardrake operations. Admiral Blackwood appeared on the main view screen, her image slightly distorted by distance. She was coordinating the defense from Earth Command. How many? She asked without preamble. Over 300 vessels, Commander Beck reported. Different configurations than we've seen before. They appear to have adapted since our last encounter. Zephyr shared his knowledge. Through their bond, the Heralds always learned from defeat. It was what made them so dangerous. They never made the same mistake. Twice. Alex turned to the Admiral. We're as ready as we can be. Admiral. The riders have been training continuously. 20 fully bonded pairs on the Dragonfire. Another 15 distributed among the Eldrathi vessels. Good, Admiral Blackwood said. Engage them beyond Mars orbit. We can't risk letting them approach Earth. Yes, Admiral, Alex acknowledged. The order had been expected. The Herald's weapons could devastate a planet if they got close enough. She turned to Commander Beck's sound battle stations. Prepare all riders for launch. The ship came alive with activity. Alex left the bridge, heading for the launch bay where Zephyr waited. Their bond had grown stronger over the months of preparation. She could feel his anticipation, his readiness for battle. The other riders were already preparing, strapping into their armor, checking the focus orbs that strengthened their connections. Olivia and Ashreth, Daniel and Vorinth. All the pairs that had trained together shared looks of determination. The past 9 months had changed everything, Alex thought as she approached Zephyr. The massive dragon lowered his head in greeting, allowing her to stroke the scales between his eyes. 9 months ago, she had been a diplomatic officer focused on peaceful first contact. Now she commanded a warship and was bonded to a creature straight out of legend. Are you ready? She asked through their bond. Zephyr sent back a wave of confidence. They would face whatever came together. Alex addressed the gathered riders. Many of you have asked why the Heralds hunt bonded species throughout the galaxy, she said. Why they fear us so much. The Eldrathi have theories but no certainty. She paused, looking at each of the riders in turn. But I believe I understand now. The bond between human and Wardrake is more than a tactical advantage. It's a joining of different minds, different perspectives, different strengths. The Heralds are singular in purpose and thought. They cannot comprehend unity through diversity. They fear what they cannot understand. Commander Beck spoke through the comm. The Herald fleet has increased speed. They will reach engagement range in 30 minutes. Alex nodded to the riders. Mount up, she ordered. Each human climbed onto their Wardrake, settling into position as their armor connected with the dragon's scales. Alex felt the familiar sensation as her suit melded with Zephyr's body, creating the physical bond that would keep her safe in the vacuum of space. The launch bay doors opened. Revealing the stars beyond Earth was a blue jewel in the distance, Mars, a reddish point of light. To Alex, it looked peaceful, serene. The heralds were still too distant to see with the naked eye, but she knew they were coming. Today we defend not just Earth, she told the riders, but all worlds that value connection, cooperation, and understanding. The heralds have hunted bonded species for millennia. Today that ends. Zephyr rumbled in agreement. The other wardrakes responded with roars and bellows that echoed throughout the launch bay. Commander Beck spoke again. Herald Fleet has deployed advance forces. They will reach our position in 10 minutes. Yarrow. Time for words was over. Alex settled herself more firmly on Zephyr's back, feeling his muscles tense in preparation. Launch, she ordered. Zephyr sprang forward, powerful legs. Alex woke to the sound of quiet voices and the gentle hum of medical equipment. She tried to open her eyes, but they felt heavy, as if weights had been attached to her eyelids. Her entire body ached in ways she had never experienced before. The memories came rushing back in fragments. The battle in space. Zephyr. The resonance attacked Zephyr, she called out. But her voice emerged as barely a whisper. Someone moved beside her bed. A cool hand touched her forehead. Rest. Lieutenant Commander Ambassador Lyra's voice was gentle. She had never heard the Eldrathi speak so softly before. You depleted your life energy during the bond fight. It will take time to recover. Alex forced her eyes open, wincing at the brightness of the room. She was in the medical bay of the Starweaver. She recognized the ceiling panels and the smell of antiseptic. Where is Zephyr? She managed to ask. Is he recovers as you do. Lyra assured her. The first resonance attack is always difficult. Even among the Eldrathi, many do not survive the attempt. You and Zephyr did something extraordinary. Alex tried to sit up, but her muscles refused to cooperate. How long have I been unconscious? She asked. 3 Earth days, Lyra replied. Your Captain Beck has been most concerned. She has many questions, as you might imagine. 3 days, Alex whispered. The void. Herald's gone for now, Lyra said, but they will return. They always do. Her expression grew somber. They have hunted my kind across the stars for millennia, wherever they find potential. Bond species they attack, seeking to eliminate the threat before it can mature. What did they want with humans? Alex asked. The Eldrathi ambassador sighed. Your species has something rare. Lieutenant Commander, a neurological structure that allows for deep bonding. Few races we have encountered possess this potential. The Heralds somehow sensed this threat. That's why they attacked us. Yes, Lyra confirmed, though I believe they were tracking my ship and discovered yours by proximity. The timing was unfortunate, but also fortunate in other ways. She smiled slightly. We might have spent years in diplomatic discussions before discovering your bonding potential. Captain Beck appeared in the doorway, her uniform slightly rumpled as if she'd been wearing it for days. Lieutenant Commander, she said, relief evident in her voice. You're awake. The doctors weren't sure when you'd come around. The captain approached the bed, looking between Alex and the ambassador. I've been debriefed on what happened. She said, her voice carefully neutral, but I would like to hear it from you when you're able. Before Alex could respond, a commotion erupted in the corridor outside. Medical technicians were shouting, and something large was moving toward the medical bay. The door slid, open wider than its normal parameters, as if the ship systems had been overridden. Zephyr pushed his massive head through the opening, his body too large to fit through the doorway. The wardrake surveyed the room, golden eyes finding Alex immediately. A rumble of satisfaction echoed from his chest. Captain Beck stepped back in alarm, but Ambassador Lyra merely smiled. Ah, she said. It seems your bond partner was concerned about you. Alex felt a gentle touch against her mind. Zephyr's presence was weaker than during their battle, but unmistakable. She felt his concern and his joy at seeing her awake. Okay, she thought toward him. The dragon made a sound that might have been a laugh. Captain Beck cleared her throat, trying to maintain her composure. "Ambassador," she said with remarkable steadiness given the circumstances, "perhaps you could explain why there's a dragon in my medical bay." Ambassador Lyra turned to the captain. "Once a wardrake bonds with a rider, the connection cannot be severed by distance alone. They will always seek each other, especially when one is injured or in danger. Zephyr has been most insistent about checking on Lieutenant Commander Mason." The medical staff huddled at the far end of the room, staring at the dragon with expressions ranging from terror to fascination. "How did he even get in here?" Captain Beck asked. "The ship recognized him as crew." Lyra explained, simple as if discussing the weather. "The ship," Captain Beck repeated. "What do you mean the ship recognized?" "Your vessel has Eldrathi components," Alex said, suddenly remembering something she'd seen during the battle. "The crystal matrices in your engine core. They respond to wardrake energies." Everyone turned to look at her in surprise. Ambassador Lyra nodded appreciatively. "The bond has given you insight." "Lieutenant Commander, yes. The crystal matrices in most advanced space vessels originated from Eldrathi technology. Though your engineers may not have known their true origins, we have seeded such technology throughout the galaxy, preparing for the day we might find allies against the Herald's captain." Beck ran a hand through her short hair. "This is beyond my pay grade," she muttered. A tall woman in an Earth Diplomatic Corps uniform entered the medical bay. She had auburn hair tied back in a severe bun, and the insignia of an admiral on her collar, Ambassador Captain. She acknowledged, then stopped abruptly as she noticed Zephyr. "There really is a dragon," she said, her voice perfectly even. "Admiral Susan Blackwood," Captain Beck said with obvious relief. The admiral approached the bed, seemingly unfazed by the massive predator watching her every move. "Lieutenant Commander Mason," she said, "I understand we've been pulled into an interstellar war that has apparently been going on since before humans discovered fire." Alex tried to salute, but her arm refused to cooperate. "Sorry, Admiral," she said. "I'm not quite back to full function at ease." Admiral Blackwood said, "I've been sent from Earth Command to assess the situation." She turned to Ambassador Lyra. "Our planet has no desire to become a battleground, Ambassador. We need to understand what we're facing." Lyra bowed her head respectfully. "The Void. Heralds seek to prevent the rise of bonded species throughout the galaxy," she explained. "They are ancient, perhaps as old as the stars themselves. They do not communicate or negotiate. They simply destroy." "And why are humans of interest to them?" Admiral Blackwood asked. Because Lyra gestured toward Alex and Zephyr. The ability to bond mentally with wardrakes creates a force the Heralds cannot easily defeat. They fear it above all else. For millennia, my people have searched for other species with this potential." The Admiral looked thoughtful. "And Lieutenant Commander, Mason stumbled into this bond accidentally." "Not entirely accidentally," Lyra said. "A genuine compliment reveals much about a soul." The words Alex spoke showed a capacity for true appreciation. It caught my attention, and through me, Zephyr's, the wardrake, rumbled in agreement. And now Alex asked, "We destroyed their ships, but you said they'll be back." "They will." Lyra confirmed. "They always return in greater numbers. The attack on our vessels was merely a scouting force." Admiral Blackwood straightened her uniform. "In that case, we need to prepare Earth defenses immediately." And she looked at Alex. "I believe we need more of whatever it is you and this dragon did out there." Captain Beck stepped forward. "Admiral, with respect, Lieutenant Commander Mason nearly died performing that resonance attack." Ambassador Lyra has explained that even among the Eldrathi, such feats require years of training. Alex could feel Zephyr's agreement through their bond. He projected images of young Eldrathi training with juvenile wardrakes, spending decades perfecting their bonds before attempting combat. But she also felt something else from him. Pride. A sense that humans might learn faster, adapt more quickly to the bond than the Eldrathi had expected. "We need more riders." Alex said, her voice stronger now. Her eyes met Zephyr's and she felt his approval. "But we also need more wardrakes, Ambassador." Lyra smiled. "Lieutenant Commander Mason is correct. The bond works both ways. Zephyr has a clutch sister who has long sought a worthy rider, And there are others. Many others who have waited centuries for compatible minds, Admiral. Blackwood looked between the human and the dragon. The Earth Diplomatic Corps was founded to establish peaceful relations with alien species, she said carefully. Not to create military alliances with respect, Admiral Alex replied. The Void Heralds don't seem interested in our diplomatic credentials. She struggled to sit up, finally succeeding with Lyra's help. They attacked without provocation. They would have destroyed both our ships if we hadn't stopped them. I understand that, Lieutenant Commander, the Admiral said. But committing humanity to an ancient war, Zephyr made a sound like distant thunder and pushed his massive head further into the room. Nearly everyone stepped back. Captain Beck and Admiral Blackwood held their ground, though Alex could see the effort it took. Through their bond, Alex felt Zephyr's frustration. He projected images of worlds destroyed, civilizations reduced, to ash, countless species eliminated by the Heralds before they could evolve the capacity to bond. All because the Heralds feared what they could not understand. They won't give us a choice. Alex translated. They don't negotiate or reason. They simply eliminate threats, Ambassador. Lyra approached the Admiral. The choice before you is not whether to fight or not to fight, she said quietly. The Heralds have already made that decision. The choice is whether to fight alone or with allies. Admiral Blackwood was silent for a long moment. Earth has faced existential threats before, she finally said. We survived climate disaster, resource depletion, our own violent tendencies. She looked at Zephyr, her expression resolved. If this is humanity's next great challenge, then we'll meet it. She turned to Alex, Lieutenant Commander, when you're recovered, I want you to work with Ambassador Lyra on establishing a training program for potential riders. We need to understand everything about this bond and how to prepare our people. Alex felt a surge of emotion from Zephyr, pride, anticipation, and something like hope. A feeling the Wardrake had not experienced in centuries. Yes, Admiral, she said, I believe we can do the Alex stared at the armor the guards held. Two pieces of her mind battled for control. The rational diplomatic officer knew this was madness. She had no training for combat, let alone riding an alien dragon into space. The other part of her, the part that had felt Zephyr's ancient mind touch hers, knew this was why she'd been drawn to the stars her entire life. I have no idea how to do this, she admitted. Ambassador Lyra placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. None of us are fully prepared for our first bond flight. But time grows short. The void. Heralds will not wait. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Alex could hear the distant sound of impacts against the hull. The guards moved forward quickly, helping Alex into the strange armor. It was surprisingly light-fitting to her form, as if it were liquid before solidifying. The material felt cool against her skin, but quickly warmed to body temperature. Lyra spoke rapidly, explaining as the guards worked. There is no time for proper training, but the basics you must know. The armor creates a protective field around you, enabling survival in space. It also strengthens the mental connection to Zephyr. The orb I gave you is a focus key. Place it here, she indicated a circular depression in the chest plate of the armor. Alex inserted the glowing orb and gasped as it sank into the armor. The entire suit lit up with blue energy lines pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The connection you felt with Zephyr will intensify. Lyra continued, you will share his senses, his strength, but you must maintain your identity. Do not lose yourself in the bond. Focus on your purpose. A human technician named Betty rushed into the chamber, her eyes wide with panic. She had apparently snuck aboard to check on Alex, Lieutenant Commander. She gasped. Everyone on the Starweaver is unconscious. Some kind of energy pulse hit us. I was in a shielded maintenance shaft and Betty froze mid-sentence as she noticed Zephyr. Her mouth opened in shock as she stared at the massive creature there alive. Lyra assured Alex. Your ship crew is merely disabled. The Heralds prefer to capture rather than kill. They seek information about potential bonding species. Alex nodded to Betty. Stay here, she ordered. Help Ambassador. Lyra, however, you can. I need to try something. Betty looked between Alex and the wardrake. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "The only thing I can," Alex replied. She turned to Zephyr, who had lowered his body to the floor, creating a space where his neck met his shoulders. "You will need to sit here," Lyra instructed. "There are connection points in the armor that will secure you." With the guards, help Alex climbed onto Zephyr. His scales were warm and smooth beneath her hands. She could feel power thrumming through his massive body. As she settled into position, the armor seemed to meld slightly with the dragon scales anchoring her in place. Zephyr turned his long neck, looking back at her. His golden eyes met hers, and suddenly the mental connection flared to life. Alex gasped as her consciousness expanded. She could feel the entire ship around them, sense the void of space beyond the hull, and most startlingly, she could feel the presence of the Void Heralds. Their alien minds were cold and crystalline, full of hatred and hunger. The chamber ceiling began to open, revealing a massive airlock above. Lyra approached, placing her hand on Zephyr's neck and looking up at Alex. "Remember," she said, "your humanity is your strength. The Heralds do not understand human unpredictability. It may be your greatest weapon." "What exactly do I do?" Alex asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "Trust Zephyr," Lyra said. "He knows how to fight them. You provide the will, the direction, the purpose. The bond amplifies both your strengths." Another impact rocked the ship and warning lights flashed throughout the chamber. "Go now," Lyra urged, stepping back. "Take the fight away from our ships. If we remain here, they will eventually break through." Alex took a deep breath and nodded. She leaned forward, placing her hands on either side of Zephyr's neck. The moment she did, the connection deepened dramatically. She could feel his muscles bunching beneath her, his wings preparing to launch. She could even sense the flow of his breath, the beat of his massive heart fly. She whispered. Zephyr launched upward with explosive force. The power of his jump pressed Alex back against the armor restraints as they shot through the open ceiling and into the airlock beyond. The outer doors parted, and suddenly they were in space. Alex expected cold silence, the vacuum of space she had been taught to fear. Instead, the armor created a bubble of atmosphere around her, and through her bond with Zephyr, she could feel the vibrations of space itself. The solar wind, the electromagnetic fields of the ships, and most disturbingly, the high-pitched keening of the Void Herald vessels as they moved through space like sharks circling prey. There were 5 of them, crystal ships that seemed to shift and reform as they moved. Their surfaces absorbed light, making them appear as holes in space outlined only by the stars they blocked. They were surrounding the connected human and Eldrathi ships, attacking with pulses of dark energy that distorted everything they touched. Alex felt a surge of protective rage flow through her. Whether it originated from her or Zephyr, she couldn't tell. The feeling merged and amplified between them, becoming a shared purpose. Zephyr banked sharply, bringing them around toward the nearest Herald ship. Alex could feel his intention forming in her mind. He would attack with a burst of energy from his mouth, a weapon the Eldrathi called Starfire. But he needed her to guide their approach without conscious thought. Alex found herself directing their flight using instincts she didn't know she possessed. The Herald ships noticed them, and one broke away from the attack on the vessels, moving to intercept. Time seemed to slow as Alex and Zephyr merged their awareness more completely. She could see energy building in the dragon's throat, feel the heat of it. She knew exactly when to release it. Now, she thought, Zephyr unleashed a stream of blinding blue-white energy that struck the approaching Herald ship. The crystal surface cracked and blackened where the Starfire hit. The ship veered away, attempting to regenerate its damaged sections. But Alex and Zephyr were already moving toward the next target. With each passing moment, their coordination improved. Alex found she could anticipate the Herald ship's movements sometimes before Zephyr himself sensed them. Her human brain processed patterns differently, seeing weaknesses the Wardrake might miss. Together they attacked a second ship, catching it as it was discharging weapons at the Starweaver. Zephyr's Starfire struck a critical junction in the crystal structure, and the entire ship shattered into thousands of glittering fragments. 2 down, Alex thought, 3 to go. The remaining Heralds abandoned their attack on the stationary ships and turned their full attention to the human and dragon. The hunt had become personal. The largest Herald ship released dozens of smaller crystal shards that moved independently through space. Zephyr barrel rolled, avoiding the first wave, but there were too many to dodge entirely. Several shards impacted the dragon's scales, leaving smoking gouges. Alex felt the pain through their bond, but Zephyr pushed through it, his endurance becoming hers. They need to be hit simultaneously. Alex realized through the bond, the ships coordinate their defenses. She felt Zephyr's agreement and something more, a sense that there was another weapon they could use, something that required deeper bonding. Show me, she thought. Images flowed through her mind. The Starfire was only one weapon. A Wardrake and bonded rider at full connection could create a resonance field, a burst of energy that expanded outward in all directions. But it required complete synchronization of minds, and it would drain them both significantly. We have to try, Alex decided. The small attackers were regrouping for another assault, and the three larger ships were maneuvering to trap them. She leaned forward, pressing herself against Zephyr's neck, and closed her eyes, focusing entirely on their connection. She felt his consciousness envelop hers, their separate identities blurring. She pushed past her fear of losing herself, remembering Lyra's warning, but knowing they needed something more. For a moment, Alex thought she would drown in the vastness of Zephyr's mind. Eons of memories, knowledge, and instinct threatened to overwhelm her. Then she felt something unexpected. Zephyr was not trying to consume her consciousness, but complement it. The Wardrake valued her humanity, her difference. With that realization, the true bond snapped into place. Their minds aligned perfectly while remaining distinct. Two instruments playing in perfect harmony. Energy began to build around them. The armor glowed brighter, pulsing in time. With both their heartbeats, Zephyr tucked his wings close to his body, and they began to spin faster and faster. They rotated in the vacuum of space, the energy building to unbearable levels. Alex felt as though her body might tear apart from the power flowing through it. Now she thought Zephyr unfurled his wings. At the exact moment, Alex threw her arms wide. Together they released the built-up energy. A sphere of blue-white light expanded outward from them in all directions. When it touched the crystal, ships and shards, they began to vibrate, then crack, then shatter in seconds. The remaining void. Heralds were reduced to dust floating harmlessly in space. Alex slumped forward on Zephyr's neck. The resonance attack had drained her completely. She could feel the Wardrake was equally exhausted. Together they drifted in space, both too tired to move. Through their fading bond, she felt his approval, his pride. It had taken Eldrathi riders years of training to achieve what they had done in their first flight. As consciousness began to slip away, Alex saw the Eldrathi ship extending some kind of energy tether toward them, drawing them back to safety. Her last thought before darkness took her way. The Eldrathi ship was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The corridors curved in organic patterns with walls that seemed to pulse with soft light. Ambassador Lyra led the way, her silver hair flowing behind her as they walked deeper into the vessel. Two Eldrathi guards followed at a respectful distance, their eyes watching Alex with curiosity. "This ship is alive," Alex said in wonder as she noticed how the walls seemed to respond to their presence. "In a manner of speaking," Ambassador Lyra replied. "Our vessels are grown, not built. They respond to our needs and emotions." She placed her hand against a wall, and the corridor brightened slightly. "It recognizes me as bonded crew." Alex wanted to ask more questions, but they had arrived at a massive, circular chamber at what seemed to be the heart of the ship. The ceiling arched high above them, and the floor was a smooth material that resembled polished stone but felt slightly yielding beneath her boots. "Wait here," Ambassador Lyra instructed. She walked to the center of the room and knelt, placing both hands on the floor and closing her eyes. The orb at her belt glowed brighter, and a soft humming filled the chamber. Alex stood nervously, her hands clasped behind her back as she waited. Several minutes passed in silence. Then she felt it, a presence in her mind, curious and ancient, brushing against her consciousness like fingers through water. "What is that?" she gasped. Taking a step back, "Peace, Lieutenant Commander," Lyra said without opening her eyes. "Zephyr is sensing you. He means no harm. Before Alex could respond, the floor at the center of the chamber began to shift and open, revealing a massive spiraling passage below. A rush of warm air filled the room, carrying a scent like cinnamon and ozone. Then came a sound, a deep rumbling that Alex felt in her chest more than heard. The guards stepped back, pressing themselves against the walls as a massive shape emerged from the opening. It rose up and up until it towered in the chamber. Alex stared in awe at the creature before her. Zephyr was magnificent. His scales shimmered in shades of deep sapphire and violet, catching the light like precious gems. His body was serpentine but powerful, with 4 clawed limbs and a pair of folded wings that looked as though they could span the entire chamber. His head was elegant and fierce, with ridges of smaller scales that formed a natural crown around intelligent eyes that gleamed like golden fire. "This Ambassador Lyra," said, rising to her feet as my guardian. Zephyr lowered his massive head until he was eye level with Alex. His nostrils flared as he took in her scent. She could feel the heat of his breath and see her own reflection in his enormous golden eyes. Alex struggled for words. "Beautiful doesn't seem adequate." Lyra smiled. "Zephyr is bonded to me through the life bond. We share thoughts, emotions, and strength. Among my people, such bonds are sacred and rare. Not all Eldrathi are chosen by wardrakes." Massive creature made a rumbling sound deep in his throat, and Lyra tilted her head as if listening. "He wishes to examine you more closely," the ambassador said. "May he touch your mind. It will not hurt." Alex swallowed hard. Part of her training had included preparation for telepathic species, but theory was different from practice. Still, she nodded consent. Zephyr brought his head closer until it was just inches from Alex. His eyes seemed to grow brighter, and then Alex felt it. The gentle presence from before was now a flood washing over her mind. She saw flashes of her own memories, her childhood on Earth, her years at the academy, her first assignment in space. These images flickered past faster than she could process. Then suddenly she was seeing something else. Stars from unfamiliar angles, vast crystal ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, battles across the void of space, dragons, wardrakes like Zephyr, but in many colors, soaring between stars with riders on their backs. The connection broke and Alex gasped, stumbling backward. The guards caught her before she fell. Lyra was at her side in an instant, helping her stand. "What was that?" Alex whispered. "Glimpses of our history," Ambassador Lyra explained. "The enemy we have fought for millennia. The Void Heralds. Zephyr showed you our truth." Alex looked up at the massive creature with new understanding. He wasn't just a pet or even a mount. He was a fully sentient being with wisdom beyond human comprehension. "He approves of you," Lyra said. "He senses something in you, something rare even among humans. A capacity for true bonding." Alex was about to respond when her communication device buzzed. Captain Beck was requesting an immediate update. Alex explained what she'd seen leaving out the mental connection. Something told her that would raise too many questions back on the Starweaver. "You need to return to your ship," Lieutenant Commander Lyra said. "But this meeting is only the beginning. We have much to discuss with your people." As they turned to leave the chamber, the ship suddenly shuddered. Alarms began to sound, a high-pitched keening that made Alex wince. Lyra froze, her face paling. "No," she whispered. "Not here. Not now." The guards were instantly alert, moving to defensive positions. Lyra pressed her hand against a wall panel and spoke rapidly in the Eldrathi language. The wall rippled and showed what looked like a tactical display. "What's happening?" Alex asked. "The Void Heralds," Lyra said, her voice tight with controlled fear. "They have found us and your ship." The tactical display showed several crystalline objects approaching rapidly. Their shapes were jagged and asymmetrical, unlike any spacecraft Alex had seen. The objects were surrounding both the Eldrathi vessel and the Starweaver. "We need to warn my ship," Alex said urgently. "Too late," Lyra replied. "The Heralds jam all standard communications. The only reason I can see them is through Zephyr's bond A's. if on cue the wardrake let out a bellowing roar that shook the chamber. His wings unfurled, partially filling the space as he reared up. His golden eyes now blazed with an inner fire. Alex felt her communication device go dead. The last thing she'd heard was Captain Beck shouting something about unknown vessels. "Ambassador, we need to help them," Alex insisted. "These are my people." Lyra looked at her with an expression of both sorrow and determination. "Your ship is disabled, Lieutenant Commander. The Herald's weapons target energy systems first. Your people are alive, but trapped. What can we do?" Alex asked. Lyra turned to Zephyr and placed her hand on his scales. The dragon lowered his head. In what seemed like a nod, "We fight, Ambassador," Lyra said. She reached to her belt and removed a second smaller orb. It was silvery. With a blue glow at its center, I had hoped for more time for proper ceremonies and training. But fate has forced our hand. She held the orb out to Alex. The human took it hesitantly, feeling a strange warmth from the device. "Among my people," she said, "when one compliments another as you did me, it is an offer of partnership, a declaration of seeing the true beauty in another soul. I could have taken offense, but Zephyr sensed your sincerity. Your words were not empty human pleasantries. They were truth." The orb began to glow brighter in Alex's hand. "All our searches across the stars," Lyra continued, "we have sought those who could bond with wardrakes as we do, species whose minds are compatible with the life bond. The Heralds fear such bonds. Above all else, it is why they hunt us." Zephyr lowered his massive body, crouching like a cat about to pounce. "What are you saying?" Alex asked, though she was beginning to understand. The Eldrathi guards brought forward what looked like armor. Sleek blue, material with glowing circuits throughout. "I am saying," Ambassador, Lyra replied, "that your unexpected compliment may have just saved both our peoples. If you are willing, Alex Mason, to become the first human to ride a wardrake into battle." The year was 2187, and the stars never looked so bright from the observation deck of the Earth Diplomatic Corps vessel. Starweaver Lieutenant Commander Alex Mason stood tall in her crisp blue uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, as she gazed at the approaching alien ship. The ship belonged to the Eldrathi, a race humans had only known about for 3 months, ever since their scout vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Their elegant curved ships reminded Alex of leaves floating on water, unlike anything human engineers had created. Captain Kate Beck approached and stood beside Alex, both women watching in silence as the final preparations for first contact were completed. "We are making history today, Lieutenant." Commander Captain Beck said, her voice steady, though Alex could hear the tension beneath. "Are you ready to meet our new friends?" Alex nodded, her heart beating fast in her chest. She had been chosen for this mission because of her background in xenolinguistics and her calm approach to unexpected situations. But nothing in her training had prepared her for meeting aliens who looked so much like the elves from old Earth stories. The Eldrathi vessel docked with a soft hum of magnetic couplers. The human delegation of 5 stood in the reception bay, Alex at the front with Captain Beck and 3 other officers behind her. The airlock cycled open, and Alex held her breath. They were tall, was her first thought. Most of the Eldrathi stood over 6.5 feet, their bodies slender but strong. Their skin shimmered with a faint iridescence in colors that reminded Alex of opals, and their large eyes were mostly amber or violet. The pointed ears that gave them their elf-like appearance twitched slightly as they took in the human delegation. Ambassador Lyra stepped forward. Her silver hair was braided with small crystals, and her formal attire looked like flowing water frozen in mid-motion. She was striking in a way that made Alex momentarily forget her diplomatic training. "Welcome aboard the Starweaver," Ambassador Captain Beck said. "We are honored to begin formal relations between our peoples." Ambassador Lyra inclined her head in what the humans had learned was a gesture of respect. "The honor is shared, Captain," she replied, her voice musical with an accent that made the translated words sound like poetry. The delegation moved to the conference room prepared for this historic meeting. Each side presented their credentials and initial diplomatic courtesies. Alex served as the cultural attaché, carefully explaining human customs as the meeting progressed. Hours passed with formal exchanges, information about respective homeworlds, and careful diplomatic language. The meeting was going well, but Alex sensed a reserve in the Eldrathi delegates. They were polite, even friendly, but holding something back. During a brief recess, Alex found herself standing near Ambassador Lyra at the refreshment table. The ambassador was examining a cup of tea with curiosity. "It's an earth blend," Alex explained. "It's called chamomile. Many find it calming." Lyra took a small sip, her expression brightening. "This is pleasant," she said. "Different from our teas, but enjoyable." There was something about her genuine reaction that made Alex smile. She had spent weeks studying the limited information about Eldrathi culture, but in this small moment, she saw something that felt universal, an appreciation for new experiences. Without thinking, Alex said, "You look wonderful today, Ambassador Theiwa." Words hung in the air. The room went completely silent. Every Eldrathi froze in place, their eyes widening as they stared at Alex. The human delegation tensed, sensing the sudden shift in atmosphere. Ambassador Lyra stood perfectly still, her hand moving slowly to a small glowing orb attached to her belt. Alex realized she'd made a terrible mistake, though she had no idea what she'd done wrong. Captain Beck moved forward slightly, ready to intervene, but Ambassador Lyra raised her hand, stopping her. The silence stretched for what felt like eternity. Then Ambassador Lyra did something unexpected. She smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Then perhaps you would like to meet my guardian," she said, her voice warm. The other Eldrathi exchanged glances, some looking shocked, others curious. The human delegation remained confused, but Alex felt a strange sense of connection as Lyra looked directly at her. "I would be honored," Alex replied, not knowing what else to say. Ambassador Lyra gestured to the orb at her belt. "This is a life bond communicator," she explained. "It connects me to Zephyr, my bonded Wardrake." Wardrake, Captain Beck asked carefully. "You might call them dragons." "Ambassador," Lyra said with amusement, "though they are not quite what your myths describe. They are companions, protectors, and much more to my people." Alex felt a chill run down her spine. The elf-like aliens had dragons. This was beyond anything the human delegation had anticipated. Ambassador Lyra continued, "For millennia, my people have searched the stars for allies against an ancient enemy. We have found many species, but few with the potential to truly stand with us as equals." She turned to address Captain Beck formally. "I request permission to bring Lieutenant Commander Mason to my vessel to meet Zephyr. My guardian has expressed interest in her." Captain Beck hesitated. "This is highly irregular, Ambassador. Our protocols." "With respect," Captain Lyra interrupted, "among my people, what your officer said is reserved for those who seek a life bond or declare intention to court." I could take offense, but I sense she spoke from genuine appreciation, which is rare and valued among the Eldrathi. Zephyr sensed her sincerity through our bond and wishes to evaluate her. Alex felt her face flush with embarrassment. She had accidentally propositioned the alien ambassador. Ambassador Lyra looked at Alex with those ancient, knowing eyes. "The universe works in strange ways, Lieutenant Commander. Your words broke through more barriers than hours of formal diplomacy. Could it be that humans are what we've been searching for all this time?" The human delegation whispered among themselves while the Eldrathi waited patiently. Finally, Captain Beck nodded. "You may visit their vessel, Lieutenant Commander, but maintain constant communication." As Alex prepared to board the alien ship, she wondered what she had gotten herself into and what this guardian would be like. The Eldrathi ship awaited, sleek and mysterious, just like its occupants. Alex stepped through the airlock, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. She had come seeking diplomatic relations, and instead had somehow found herself at the center of something much bigger. What waited for her aboard that ship would change the course of human history forever. And it had all started with a simple compliment.